Hey, welcome everybody. This is Melvin here, and I'm so glad to be here. Episode 19. Can you imagine? 19 days in a row. Wow. Um, yeah, so, today is a Sunday for me, and Sunday is a time of worship. Sunday is also a time to get started and to get ready for the week ahead. And I must say, this Sunday, it's a Sunday where I, take quite a fair bit of time to do my weekly review, and and that's something that I kind of have been doing religiously for many years already. One of the key benefits of doing a weekly review is it allows for me to evaluate my actions this week. And of course, the evaluation is as rich as the amount of data that I collect on a consistent basis. So it pretty much depends on me if I have written down or I have documented what I've done during the week itself. And that kind of helps me keep track of what's going on, what has been done, and what are the things that are still lacking. And so, in that whole process itself, it actually allows me to review and to look at, what are some of the things that I've done well, and which days I kind of feel down, and which days I am totally happy. And so, with that, I try to look at, what are some of the things that happened during those days? Were there a certain pattern? Because once I recognize that there is a pattern, it doesn't take a genius to look at it and say that, well, then I'm going to do more of the things that make me happy, and I'm going to do less of the things that make me crappy. And so, the whole idea with weekly review, it's really good, provided if you take the time to document and to collect data during the course of the week. And so today I was making an evaluation on the project management tools because I've got a couple of new projects coming up. And I really not just want to get it done, but I also want to document the whole process itself, partly because I definitely see the value of documenting it because I could reflect back and look at what went well and what did not go well. Number two, it's also that I get the opportunity to share with you here on this show itself. And so I was looking at a few project management tool, and I must say, after looking at it for like a couple of hours, I still haven't come down to one that I really like. Okay, so first thing first is that when you look at project management tools, there's just so many project management tools out there. And some of them are pretty much the same. I mean, they do kind of the same thing. They allow you to set milestones. They allow you to come up with your task list. Some has recurring task ability. Some not. Some have task dependency linkage. Some do not. Some gives you the ability to create flowcharts as well as mind maps and all that cool stuff. And I at the end of the day, I would say that there isn't one particular project management tool that kind of stood out. And sometimes the easiest, but not all the easiest way, but not necessarily the way that we want to do it, is to go back to the basics. And the basics is just picking up either a piece of paper and a pen, or just using whatever apps or tools or resources that you have, and just use it and run with it, right? Because there will never be a perfect tool, and there will, without some level of customization, there just it's almost impossible for you to find a perfect project management tool. I mean, I would love to know what project management tool you're using. I've tried like so many, and it's just sometimes I look back and I'm like, oh man, it's just a waste of time, because at the end of the day, I still go back to the same few tools itself. But one thing that kind of struck me in that whole process of looking at project management tools was the following. They all have a similar goal, and that similar goal is to solve my problem. And my problem is basically I have a bunch of projects, and I'm someone who, at the very basic level, wants a way to kind of track those projects. At a higher level, I am also one that want to kind of see the project in its entirety. I want to have a big picture look at it and not just focus on the daily task itself. I want to know, like, what does this task lead to, and how does it contribute to the bigger goal? And in addition to that, sometimes I would also like to see, for example, during my weekly review, I would want to see at the macro level, all the projects that I'm looking at, right? And I kind of give myself an idea, a frame of mind to say that, okay, these are the, this is where my energy is going to be going, because I need to look into these factors, for example. And of course, now, I have the added requirement to look at documenting, preferably documenting every single day and every single step that I took in the whole process of developing some of the products, writing codes for the website, for example. All that stuff I want to document it down, because until and unless you follow through, or until and unless you document that down, you don't really sometimes know where your time goes. And so I really want to do it at that level itself. That said, it's kind of painful to have like six, seven, 8 apps just to capture all these things. I mean, I to record the memories that we have at home. I would use one app to record my daily study of the Bible. I would use another app, and after a while, you end up paying subscription for so many different apps. It's just not funny, right? And so I wanted to look at that one app that's able to do everything. And of course, the answer is I can't find any, right? And it bugs the hell out of me. But the point I want to make here is the following. A lot of time, we all think, especially for those of us who want to be out there on the internet, using using social media, using internet to kind of sell the services that we provide. For instance, I think many of us suffer from that idea that when you look at someone else, it seems like they are further along, or it seems like this person is doing this person is doing that. And, after a while, you're like, hey, man, I could do that. And then you start doing this, and then you see another person doing something else, and you say, hey, man, I could do that. And then you jump from one thing to another. And at the end of the day, you don't have, you accomplish nothing, right? We talked about that a couple of days back. So the point I want to make here is that it doesn't matter if whatever you are doing, somebody else is really doing. And it doesn't matter if somebody else is already doing it better in your opinion, because that is purely your opinion. And the other thing is that, your thinking is not always true. Your thinking is not always correct. So one of the things that I've learned in terms of, working on mental health is the following: that my thoughts are not me. My thoughts are not me. And that's very, very important for you to recognize and to acknowledge that your thoughts are not you, and your thoughts are just, this thoughts itself. And many a times you would need to critically examine and analyze and ask if these thoughts are even true, right? And so, you may look at someone else and you may say, wow, that person is further along. He has done, all this thing that I wanted to do. There's no place for me now. I think that is a flawed way of thinking, because if you just look at the analogy that I was using with the project management tool itself, there's so many project management tools, and many of them does the same thing, but the ones that stands out are the one that does things a little different, right? They do things that is a little bit different from the other person or the other software or the other app. And of course, unless whatever they have done, it's going to require a huge amount of code, or, it's something that is so innovative that no one has thought of, then obviously they are going to be a winner, a big winner, right? But more often than not, an area like project management, everybody has, I say everybody, but a lot of people have looked into this area of project management, this field itself, this niche itself. And I would say that, whatever innovative way that you can come up with in terms of managing projects, it's pretty much already been done by somebody else. And so where does that leave us? Well, the answer to that is that it leaves us not to compete to be the best within this whole cohort of within this whole cohort of apps, or within your cohort of people that do what you do. I think what's important is for you to be able to differentiate yourself. What is it that you do differently? For example, when I was building relationships on LinkedIn, one of the main thing that I told myself was never be selfish and always be absolutely generous. Are there people who kind of screw me over? I mean, like they approach me and get, so-called free advice, and say thank you, and you never hear from them ever again. Of course, and some of these people, when you send them a message, they don't even get back to you. But does that mean that because there are going to be such people, you are going to not do that anymore? I think most people would think like that, because most people have the idea of a scarcity mindset. But I think you are going to be different, because you're going to think of it as, I'm going to continue to give, and they can steal from me all they want. But as long as I am able to keep up, I am able to innovate, I'm able to be creative, I'm able to come up with insights that people have not seen, I'm able to come with ideas that people have not thought of, and I'm able to implement those ideas, then I think, what is there to be afraid of, right? And I think many a times, people, even during at this stage itself, people will still say that, I don't want to reveal too much, because if I reveal everything, then, people will not come to my workshops anymore, and all that thinking about that way. And those are just really, really, scarcity mindset. And that's something that you want to avoid. You and I want to avoid, because we believe that whatever talent that we have, this is something that was given to us. It's a gift. And it doesn't mean that, it's been given to us and it's a gift and we're born with it, that kind of thing. But more importantly, it's that, it gives you that spark, it gives you that catalyst, it gives you that trigger. And with that, you will start growing and you will start bettering yourself. And that's where, you become the expert. And so, people say, what makes someone an expert? And I think what makes someone an expert is the following. That person has the knowledge, and the person has been able to apply that knowledge in real world, right? We're not just talking about, tests and, test environment kind of thing. But this person has got the knowledge, and this person is able to apply in the real world, able to gain some experience, and have a broad range of perspective, right? Not just one angle, or looking at it from one way only, but people with multiple perspective. I think those are the ones that what I call experts, right? And even especially, I would actually rate perspective higher than experience, because for the very fact that you need the different perspective from people, especially when you are talking to customers. You need the different perspective of people, because you really want to find out, what is it that they think, what is their journey, what are their needs, what are their frustrations. You want to know. And there is no such thing as, I know my customers inside out. No, you do not, because unless you are them, there is no way that you can totally know them in and out. Speaking of in and out, I'm thinking of In-N-Out Burger. Anyways, yeah. So the whole idea with being an expert, really, it's not just about I have the experience, but I believe it's about having that perspective to be able to see things from different angle, that perspective to be able to see it from an angle that sometimes people cannot. And that's where, I would say some of this slight nuances are the ones that kind of differentiates the project management tool that I have shortlisted. I must say that even the ones that I shortlisted, I am still not, 100% in love with them. But yeah, I know it's like, you'll never be satisfied. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, if you have used a project management tool before and you absolutely swear by it, and you think that is, the best thing that ever happened to you, please share with me, because I'm looking for a great project management tool. And of course, if you haven't heard, next week on Wednesday, that's when I will be conducting a webinar. And let me just share with you what this webinar is all about. Yeah, so this webinar itself, basically what I'm going to go through, it's the following. Let me just all right, so I'm calling this yeah, so this is correct. Yep. So I'm calling this the post COVID-19, how you use LinkedIn, how you leverage LinkedIn post COVID-19 using these 3 techniques. Now, the common thing that most people would say, and the common thing that I heard, time and again, is that the LinkedIn algorithm has changed. Of course, it has changed. Of course, it will change, right? Because if it doesn't change, then it's going to be irrelevant. So of course, it has changed. That is true, but the point is that that's not something that you have to be worried about, because as long as you're using these three techniques, there's nothing to be worried about. So what are these three techniques? Well, I at this point in time, I'll just share with you the principles behind this technique. So number one is that you have to adopt an audience first approach. What does an audience first approach means, or what does it not mean, or what does it compare to? So an example is, if you are looking at, for example, creating a product and then looking for people to buy it, that approach is wrong. What you want to do is really to harvest and to reap the research and the responses that you get from engaging with people on LinkedIn, and then from there to distill that information out from them. And once you know that, that's where you are able to, create the product itself. Second one is demonstrate your expertise. I cannot say this enough, because at the end of the day, this is a people business. So people want to do business with people that they are comfortable with. So you got to know, like, and trust, and then they will try out your product, and then they will convert, right? And number three is that you need, in today's day and age, you really need a flywheel. What's a flywheel? I'll go into a bit more detail, but essentially, these are the three key principles itself. So no, I'm not just sharing the principle because this is not a lecture. This is not an academic exercise. It's something that I want to make sure that it's practical for you. So if you come here, you will learn the three techniques that I've been using since earlier this year. And thank God I embarked on those three techniques, because when COVID-19 kicks in, I had no problem at all, right? And what I want to do is I want to show you, the process that I use to execute this technique. But more importantly, I also want to share with you the tools that I use. And I think those tools are something that you definitely want to consider, because number one, it's free. Number two, it's no code. And number three is it is something that allows you to put them together, automate it, and then to be able to use that to test until you get your MVP, right? Okay, so a lot of time, I'm sure you have gone on webinars and people try and upsell you. That's not nice. We all know that. But, so what's the catch? I want to be upfront. Like I mentioned many times, I'm a consultant. People pay me to give them advice. So, during the webinar itself, I'm going to make you an offer. It is up to you. It is absolutely up to you whether you want to take up the offer or not, right? The other thing that I'm going to do for you is the following. I am going to make sure that, the webinar is recorded. And at the end of it, what I'd like to do is to archive that and put it in my learning management system. And so once you have access to that, you can always come back and refer to that copy itself. So, it doesn't matter if you cannot attend live, because you will still get a recorded version of the webinar. And as long as you register, you will get the recorded version once it's out. Now, I can say that the techniques will definitely still work, because unless you are viewing it 5 years from now, but if you're going to be viewing it in the next couple of weeks, for example, I guarantee you the techniques still work, because these are fundamentals. That said, I can say that the techniques will still work, but the offer may not be valid anymore. So that's something that you want to note. Okay, so how do you register, and how do you go about signing up for the webinar? Very simple. Just use the link here. Just use the link, and here you will find that you will be able to see the webinar itself. It's going to happen on Wednesday, 4 p.m. here in Singapore. And like I say, even if you can't attend, sign up, get a copy of it when it's it's done, and you will then be able to have access to that in my learning management system. All right, so that's it for us today. I definitely hope that it's been a great time for you here, because I hope you learned something. That's actually my intent all the time, that I want you to learn something. So definitely I hope you learn something from there. I'm not going to irritate all of you by playing the music throughout, because I think sometimes that can be a little bit annoying. So I'm just going to play in the intro and the outro. All right, and so with that, this is Melvin Tan signing off, and I will speak to you soon. Bye-bye.